I appreciate the work that Mr. Rose and some of his associates have been dealing with. I have volunteered to be the representative to the Area Agency on Aging this year, and hope to be able to be involved in some of these issues more than I have in the past. One of the things that occurs to me as we're sitting up here is we have a document with a number of tabs, and it refers to the approval of Mendocino County's 209 legislative platform. And ordinarily, we do not get in the position of talking about advocating for legislation on matters of this particular kind, but I would suggest that as we put together a resolution in the future, that we make this something that we make very formally before the our representatives in Congress, in order that they recognize that this is something that they can actually do something about. Too often we're concerned with bricks and mortars and programs that are in place and so forth. These are federal programs, and a voice from here in Mendocino County does not actually shake the halls of Congress. I don't think too many people run down the hall saying they're coming at us with a resolution. But on the other hand, when it comes to situations having to do with food stamps, those things began at the grassroots level. It didn't come down from Washington. It came from groups of people who were in need and people who were involved in the process, and became, in a very short period of time, a massive program that probably keeps some of those people you're talking about that can't afford to buy meat and cheese. It at least allows them to be able to buy other goods, whereas in the past, this was not even available. So I would just suggest here that we make this just more than a simple resolution, but something that actually ties it to our legislative programs, because I can assure you that if we had every county in California come up with something saying, we want to see an adjustment when you get a 5.8 increase in your Social Security, that you get a lowering of the requirements, 5.8%. You can figure out what the formulas would be. They could get pretty complex given the complexity of some of these programs that are out there. But at the same time here, this is the name of the game, whereas the formula working in one direction can't be used to work against the people who presumably benefit. So I think what we really need to do is say, look, you've got problems with your math, you've got problems with your arithmetic in terms of doing the kind of formula. We give you 5.8 and we'll take away 6.1. I can hardly be more excited about my raise this year. But the fact of the matter is this is not the way it should work. And this is, again, we do have a new administration. We do have a new head of Health and Human Services coming on. And the situation that's before us with regard to HUD, always a problem. But I think here in each of these areas, if we were to make a resolution that was very, very specific, identifying the programs, and to Susan, I would raise the question, could we actually break out these programs and come up and say, here it has a huge impact with regard to housing. It might not have that much of an impact on food stamps and vice versa. If we had that kind of information, make that part of the resolution to educate our federal representatives as to what the situation is, I think we could actually be talking about the beginning of a grassroots movement here in Mendocino County. You get Lake County, you get Humboldt County, and suddenly perhaps you even have a real critical mass that could be moving forward. So I would support this very strongly. And again, I thank those who have been working on it, and would like to see a resolution that has some real teeth, and even throw it in. I know this will concern some people, but even throw it into our federal legislative program, as this is one of the rules we want to see changed. And this is something we're not asking for money, we're asking for you to, when you hand out an increase in benefits to seniors, let's make sure there's a firewall that says nothing will make it worse. You'll end up 5.8% better economically in the year in which you get it. It's the least we can be doing for the seniors that are living under circumstances that are absolutely indefensible in a society, even with all the problems we have in place today. So thank you.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rose for continuing to go down this path of advocacy and keep this in front of the community and in front of the board. To Supervisor Colfax's comments, I believe that because of the very tight time constraints that we're under with respect to our presentation of legislative agenda issues, specific funding requests that the Board of Supervisors has for project-driven proposals in Mendocino County, that's the component that's before us today, and it's really just the federal component of that. The legislative program overall is far more comprehensive, and I think we'll be getting to that. What are the things we want to advocate for at the federal level, the state level, and what specific legislative proposals do we want to take a stand on, either oppose or support? So I think the General Government Committee will continue to look at that, and we'll be getting more on that. So to go with Supervisor Colfax's concept on this, I think that the timing is right, and that what I would like to recommend is that Ms. Arrow work with Ms. Badenfort in the executive office to, and in concert with County Council, to craft the resolution that we're discussing here today, and make it a strong one. Of course, having to look at the things that the county really can do and the things that we cannot do with respect to setting the COLAs and the actual tables of benefits. There has been some discussion that this widely discussed stimulus bill will have some components in it for seniors and have some in for those receiving Social Security. So I think that what we need is an excellent cover letter to go with the resolution, assuming that the board adopts that would go to our federal legislators, and one that would specifically go to our state representatives, that would talk about the concept Supervisor Colfax is alluding to with respect to that they have the responsibility primarily for setting benefit allocation tables, and that they seriously take a look at this, and that we're aware that the stimulus proposal is going to attempt to deal with this, but the structural imbalances and structural problems won't be dealt with by the stimulus package, and that we see that it is their responsibility to really further evaluate these tables, Social Security benefits, subsidies for housing, recipients for the food bank, and so forth, as we are in this very difficult financial time and declining revenues, and the huge challenge that it puts on those in the lower income brackets, and that we really want them to take a look at that, and that they need to create some structural change to how we provide benefits in this country. So I think that would be the way I would like to see it come back to the board, a very much reviewed local resolution that we're signing on to, but a cover letter to the elected officials stating our concerns, and then really turning to them to do the job that they really need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith. Supervisor Brown?
Yes, I would also like to thank JR. He and I have talked about this issue in the last year. I appreciate the fact, Mr. Chair, that you did put it on the agenda. I don't think there's more I can say to add to the comments already made, other than providing a motion to put forth the crafting of the resolution for next week's agenda, and to also discuss whether we can insert it into our federal legislative package. And I think that's an agenda item later in the day.
Thank you. Well, I got a few things I need to say on this issue. First of all, I'm not so sure